Hello, my name's Joanne Casey. I'm a podiatrist. I graduated from Southampton University in 2002, and today I have what they call a portfolio career. I work here at the Royal College of Podiatry as professional development lead. I also work at the University of Southampton as a visiting fellow, and I work in private practice. When my career started back in 2002, I started off and I got a job as a senior 2 podiatrist, I think it was called then, senior 2 podiatrist for Berkshire NHS. And that was a community-based role where I worked across community hospitals, but also in the home visiting. So I did work in patients' houses, and it was very clinically led. I had a mentor who supported me through this transition from coming straight from university into my first job. And I was in that role for probably a couple of years. After that, I decided to do some locuming or some bank work. And from this, the clinical skills that I'd picked up within Berkshire and the background knowledge that I'd learned from university and continuing my clinical professional development were really sort of able to allow me to work across almost any clinical setting in the community at the level at which I was capable. This is probably my bank and locuming work where I realised that it was my own knowledge and my skills as a podiatrist that really allowed me to work in these clinical environments. I turned up to different clinics and I didn't know particularly which one had what dressings, which one had what instruments, which ones had different diagnostic materials. So it was really from my own knowledge of complex decision making and understanding of the patient where I developed my skills and my passion for clinic. And I realised then that I had lots of skills and attributes that were able to allow me to work in this way. From there, I stayed actually part-time as bank work, and I took on a job within the NHS. And this was then in what they called a senior 1 role, which is now a band 7, and that was specialising in diabetes. And I did this in Buckinghamshire, so I'm still sticking within the home counties and London. And from this role, I was working then with a team of people within a multidisciplinary team, or an MDT, in diabetes. And this is where my skills for diabetes and my passion for this particular area of work came about. Still working part-time in the NHS, now part-time in private practice rather than at locuming. And I developed another set of clinical skills which really began to home in the kind of depth of work that we do. So not only the diabetes side and what the NHS is able to offer and support, but also what the public needed, what people want, what the UK population want from podiatric health. And so I was really able to instill that in my private practice. So I became aware of a evolving set of skills and attributes, I guess, from the more clinical practice I did in these 2 fields. From Buckinghamshire and my passion for diabetes, it took me down to South London to King's College Hospital, which is now called the Mike Edmonds Foot Clinic, where I worked in the outpatient clinic for a couple of years. And then I took on an advanced diabetes practitioner role, so an advanced clinical practice role in diabetes. And that was then on the ward, so working predominantly with vascular orthopedic surgeons, plastic surgeons, our teams in the kidney units, and that's where my passion and research started to come into play, when I began to sort of really work that more advanced skill set within the MDT, and also the love of understanding diabetes and renal disease. And I'm still part-time at this point in the NHS and now at King's, in private practice and now at King's. But I was then developing those 4 pillars of advanced clinical practice. So my research came in and I started to deliver research audits and evaluations over abroad in conferences such as the Diabetic Foot Study Group, to really highlight the good work that was happening at King's from a national level. Also at King's, I was able to implement advanced therapies. So we were using lava therapies, negative pressure therapies. We developed lots of offloading device support, and also the post-operative management and understanding of the complexity of getting the patient home and looking to try and prevent readmission. So we did a lot of work around that in terms of evaluating the service and trying to embed that into some research. And I also, as part of my time at King's, I worked on what is now internationally published papers on the use of advanced therapies, so antibiotic-loaded Cerament, which you use in surgical implementation for the management of Charcot foot. So that got put out as a piece of research. And I'm still working in private practice. And what was lovely about that mix is that I was able to really try and think about private practice as a preventative measure for people needing or requiring the health service, but also then supporting the health service in private practice by knowing that my colleagues in the NHS were able to refer to me because we did have that advanced knowledge in private practice. So I think having that hybrid role was really useful. I then took myself back into community healthcare and worked in Oxfordshire. So I went from still in King's, had a part-time job in Oxfordshire and sort of tried to do some private practice on the side. And that then gave me a real breadth of, independent practice, community, and now acute work within the secondary and tertiary care settings. And I think at that point, COVID then came into play, and I was asked to go into London to work in London full time because of any cross contamination that I might have been doing as I worked between trusts. So I moved into London permanently, and then worked with our tissue viability colleagues across the intensive care units. Also, the clinical skills that I had, I was able to support fit mask testing and also gave dermatological advice on pressure damage, especially when we were using the FFP3 masks. So you can see how, having had that clinical exposure as a podiatrist, you're able to utilize your skill sets in other ways. So I'm still very clinically led here, but I'm really beginning to encroach into research, management, especially management across the three care settings. So independent practice, community, and secondary care. I also sort of started to develop at King's some minor surgical skills as well. So we were doing percutaneous tenotomies at the time. So again, if you're working within an MDT, you can really start to hone in your advanced clinical practice skill set. And of course, that can leapfrog you if you choose into things like podiatric surgery, if you do the correct, theory of podiatric surgery masters. That wasn't an area that I wanted to go into. Still very clinical efficiency, patient safety is where I'm tending to go now. And the Royal College of Podiatry asked if I'd like to do some project management work, which now I've been doing for 3 years. So I left King's. I work privately. I work at the Royal College. And this programme of work that we've been delivering here is the Workforce Education Reform Programme. And I think where my clinical skills and my knowledge of working on the ground, on the floor, really hits home as to what I can offer and understand, because I really feel like I could be translatable to others. So I've been doing this Workforce Education Reform Programme here. And that's developed 8 work packages from level 3, so your support worker, right the way up to level 8, your consultant podiatrist and advanced clinical practice work. So that's been a really nice piece of management that I've worked in collaboration with NHS England. I then was asked if I'd like to do some undergraduate work. Undergraduate teaching at the University of Southampton, where I started, where my passion lay. And of course, I jumped at that opportunity. And so now I hybridise my roles between the Royal College, the University of Southampton, and private practice. So I'm still keeping myself in that clinical sphere because I really still love that aspect of my role. But I'd love, when you start to develop your skill set, someone said to me once that you need to think about your sphere of influence. So, of course, when you think about how you can influence change, having had such a diverse and experienced clinical background, going into the undergraduate programme is great because you can, that sort of drop in the ocean kind of ripples out. You can support people in their understanding, but then also then at the Royal College, that same pebble drop will allow you to influence change at a national level. So, I'm hoping that my background has supported all of that. And I think that this programme of work we've done with NHS England you'll be able to really see how my passion for podiatry has been cemented, but my passion still is within clinical practice. And I hope that anybody looking at this video can really see the importance of gaining some really great roots in your skill sets, your skills, your attributes in complex decision making, in advanced clinical practice. 4 pillars, so research, management, informed, facilitated learning, and clinical practice. Really cement your you're learning around those 4 pillars wherever you are on your journey, because it really does give you a very ground understanding of the clinical role, and then how you can try and transmit those skills into the wider sphere of influence. I've loved clinical practice, and I know this particular video is around clinical practice. I really encourage you to get as involved as you can and really learn and keep as diverse as you can. I did specialise, but of course with the private practice I was really able to keep my skills broad, and that then allowed me to really fully appreciate the requirements of podiatry and where we sit and what our offering is to the public of the UK. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you'd like to get back in contact with me, I'm more than happy for you to email me here at the Royal College, or I'm on Twitter. So, do catch up, and if I can support you in any way, I'd love to. Thanks.